What's up, guys? Welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host, Zach, and today's subreddit is r/ProRevenge. Alright, this story's called When Service Personnel Screw the Pooch. Here's a story for you. I served from 2009 to 2016 in the US Navy, originally slated as a nuclear machinist mate. Location names will be used except for private businesses and people who work at the same, but if you're familiar with the area, you should know what's going on. One weekend in November of '09, I was wrapping up my A school, the first school that we had to go through to get qualified as Navy nuclear operators. My classmates and I didn't feel like spending the whole weekend on base studying, so we went off base to the local mall and shopping center. I was perusing the local tabletop game store, the Dragon's Roost, first name change, and I was intrigued by all the Warhammer 40,000 models on display. Most of it was artfully painted and placed on display for people to see what can be done with the hobby. I came across one diorama with a bunch of space marines duking it out with a squad of Tyranids. All the marines had names associated with them, on flags flying for each, with people related to the store on the Space Marine side, US Navy, US Army, or Good Customer, insert name here. The Space Marines I could recognize as Brother Steve, the store owner, name changed, and Brother Shannon, his wife, name also changed. However, my eye was caught by one Space Marine, bolter pistol a foot away by scale, from his outstretched hand, lying on the ground with a clean hole through his chest. His flag read, Brother Shoplifter. There had to be a story behind this. I asked Steve about it, and with it being a slow Saturday, lucky us, he launched into his tale. OP's notes, I'll be shifting to his perspective, as Steve told me the story. Back in the mid-90s, we were having a bumper day. I was ringing up customers non-stop. We had a bunch of off-duty sailors, airmen, and Marines playing tabletop games in the side room, and my wife was generally wandering to make sure everyone was satisfied, given the day's chaos. I don't see Shannon stop in the breezeway between the rooms, putting her hands on her hips. One of the Marines did. Marine asked, "What's going on, Shannon?" She had started glaring at one kid, a fresh-out-of-boot airman, with a sweatshirt on, going up and down the comic book aisles, grabbing stuff and not putting everything back. She simply responded, "I think that man is stealing." All of the players got up from that table and went to cover the doors. Two flanked Shannon, one to the back, two to the front, and one to either side of the aisle the booty was in. The two covering the aisle were both Marines built like a brick crap house. They approach the kid and ask what he has under his sweater. The kid responds, "Nothing." "Nothing, huh?" An open palm punch flies out and hits the kid square in the chest, his arms flying out to either side of him to maintain balance, and comics drop out of the front of his sweatshirt all over the floor. "Nothing, huh?" Then loudly, "That looks like about $500 worth of stolen goods. Hey, Steve, isn't that grand larceny?" I started reeling a bit, but come to my senses and say, "Yeah, it is." Then the Marines both grab the kid and start hauling him out the front door towards one of the sailors' Camaros to shove him into the back and take him back to base. I figure they had it well in hand. Meanwhile, a shipyard bubba with his son in tow comes in and asks me what's going on. I told him it was a shoplifter, and the serviceman had it under control. "Shouldn't you call the cops?" he asks. Yeah, I should. I step out front and call out to the group. "Hey guys, we have a witness." The Marines, who are having difficulty shoving the airman into the non-existent backseat of this Camaro, pause and look at each other and the sailor. Then haul the kid back inside and plop him down between a couple of the display cases and stare the kid down, daring him to make a move while I call the Charleston police. Within 10 minutes, a cop black as night and roughly 7 feet tall arrives to take charge. He's so tall, he has to duck under the doorframe to get in. He then asked me if I was the owner or the manager of the establishment. I responded, "I am the owner." The cop takes one look at the kid, now white as a sheet, and asks me, "What do you want me to do to him?" Not with, to. Charleston police will bend over backwards to please owners of any building or establishment they get called to, but don't give a hoot about managers or renters. This being the South, it's a very southern US thing. I just told the cop to take the kid back to whatever base he's from. They'll deal with him there. To my surprise, the cop is back within 20 minutes and told me that the kid was just gonna get a slap on the wrist based on the reception he received. I wouldn't have that, so I called up one of my friends on the base, a Chief Master Sergeant, call him Chief, an E9 in the Air Force, and the first sergeant of the base at the time. I gave him the whole spiel, and he told me he'll take care of it. We kept tabs through the kid's ordeal, where I found out he was put on extra latrine duties on his side of the runway, and then immediately moved to the other side of the runway to do more of the same for the landing planes and their lavatories. This had gone on for a good 3 months, when his captain, Air Force 03, took notice and put him in immediate transfer papers, seeing as the kid obviously pissed off one of his seniors and was getting hammered for it. As it turns out, all transfer papers crossed the first sergeant's desk for signing off and adjustments, up to and including recommended rerouting. He recommended Nome, Alaska, as the kid's next duty post. OP's note: the Nome base hadn't been in use since the mid-1950s by the Air Force, so I'm pretty sure Steve had that one mixed up with one of the other Alaskan bases. But the point was still valid. He called me to tell me what was up with Brother Shoplifter, and I figured that him getting transferred out would be the end of it.
No way, I'm not done with him yet.
After another week, the chief called me and told me what was done. The conversation went roughly like this. Nome Air Force Base, this is Airman, redacted, speaking. You're on an unsecured line. How may I help you, sir or ma'am?
Hi, this is Chief Master Sergeant Redacted, First Sergeant at Charleston Air Force Base. I'd like to speak with my equivalent there on your base regarding the personnel transfer.
Wait, what?
Sure. Hello, this is Technical Sergeant Redacted speaking. We don't have a first here, but I am the ranking enlisted. What's up, Chief? I have a fresh transfer here going up to Alaska for a change in scenery. You should be seeing his papers come through pretty soon, but I need to talk to you regarding the reasons as to why he's being sent out of rotation. I have a new airman coming from your neck of the woods. Name of, Airman Brother Shoplifter, but nothing stating as to why. That's him. This isn't someone trying to escape their depender, is it? No, this is someone who got caught up in a legal issue. The other party declined to press in charges, so he has no local police record. But I wanted to let you know that he got caught shoplifting at one of our local businesses, a comic store by the name of the Dragon's Roost. Wait a minute, he stole from Steve?
Once Steve finished telling us this, Jim, I and my buddies just started howling with laughter. We immediately took the lesson here to heart, in that the military is a very tight-knit community. The Navy nuclear community even more so, as our instructors had told us. I also bought a set of dice that I still use to this day. Oh boy, okay, well, yeah, probably shouldn't have stole that much money worth, tried to steal that much worth merchant, English hard. Anyway, I really hope it eventually eased up on the guy, cause he's a young dude. Young people do stupid things. Stealing, definitely a pretty bad thing to do if you're gonna choose something stupid to do. Stealing is not cool, especially from a local business. If you're gonna steal, I'm not gonna tell you from, just steal from people who can afford it. If you absolutely have to, you sticky-fingered sticky person. And by people who can afford it, I mean like, the big boys, Walmart. I'm pretty sure Walmart has the largest annual revenue of any company or entity, I guess. I mean, other than maybe countries or something, but I'm just saying, like, they have freaking 400, 500 billion bucks a year. It's crazy. But don't steal. It's wrong regardless. This story's called Wasted a Scammer's Afternoon and Gas Money Using a Fake Facebook Account for Insulting Me Weeks Earlier. Back in September, I went to look at a pair of moose antlers on Facebook Marketplace that my dad was interested in. He lives in a small cabin on my property and thought the antlers would look cool over his front door. That's a cool setup. We get there and the dude is clearly high on coke, jittery, keeps wiping his nose, etc. I mean, if it is coke, he's probably not addicted. It just smells really good, right? We met him at a storage rental place, so he had to let us in with his code, and we were stuck in the facility until he let us back out. We get to his rental unit, and he gets the antlers out. They were very clearly fake. He said he'd spray painted them brown to make them look like they were still in velvet. It's obvious he'd sprayed them to try to make them look real. The weight was off, the color was off, there were several large cracks in them, and you could see they were white inside, not bone-colored. There were also several points broken off, and the material inside was white and powdery. Again, not bone. He kept insisting they could be fixed with some epoxy. Finally, tapping your fingers on them made a drum noise, so they were hollow inside. At this point, I hadn't said a word at all. I was just along for the ride with my dad. Dad politely tells the guy that we're gonna pass. He thinks they're fake. Thanks, but no thanks. This guy goes off the deep end screaming at us, calling us all sorts of names, insulting us, our mothers, etc. Then he starts screaming at us that we were locked in there with him and weren't leaving until he was ready to go. Dad and I get in the truck, and luckily another customer was coming into their unit, and we were able to get out of the locked gate when they came in. We both thought it was hilarious how off the wall this guy acted and how fake the antlers looked in person. I stew on this for a few weeks and finally come up with the revenge plan. I didn't say a single word to the guy, and he insulted my entire family tree, wife, intelligence, etc. I create a new Facebook account with the dumbest old person name I could come up with. Then I used a bunch of Hide the Plane Herald photos to populate it with. Then started adding as many friends as I can, posting dumb crap about old black and white movies, my prostate, etc. Spent a few days crap loading this account as much as I could. Then, once the account was 2 weeks old and I could get on Facebook groups, I go to a few of the groups I knew this guy was on and find some of his items he had for sale. Luckily, he had 2 large bookcases for sale. Great. Something big and awkward to move around. Next, I do some research and find the most pain-in-the-butt location in my city to get to. I pick a place that has no highway on-ramps, so it takes at least half an hour to get to it off the highway. I message him and I ask if he would deliver since I only have a sedan. And he says yes! For $50 to cover his gas and a helper because they would take 2 people to move around. We set up a date and time, and I tell him I'm gonna meet him at a nearby grocery store since my house is hard to find. Finally, the time arrives. He messages me that he is at the grocery store. Now I come up with every annoying old person slow thing I can think of.
I'm putting my shoes on. My wife is in the shower and I can't leave in case she slips.
Then,
oh, we've not gone anywhere in so long because of this China virus. My car battery's dead.
Mr. Scammer finally asks for my address and says he'll find the place. I get on Google Maps and find the most pain-in-the-butt street to get to, knowing he's driving a full-sized van and towing a trailer with the bookshelves behind. So I find a street in the very center of an old, badly laid-out neighborhood, got on Street View and look for where the house number stops, and pick a number a few above that one. I tested in Google Maps, and Google Maps isn't smart enough to know that house number doesn't exist. It just points you at the end of the dead-end street. So I relay this address. Of course, I make sure to mess it up a few times and get him lost in the process. After about 90 minutes, he messages that he can't find that house number, but he's on my street. Can I please come outside? I reply with,
No thanks.
No thanks what?
I walked out there and saw them. Not interested in buying.
My Facebook account blows up for the next hour with him trying to call me, video chat, sending all kinds of horrible messages about how I'm a liar and a cheater. I never respond back. I check it occasionally, and about every 2 weeks, he sends me a nasty message still. Dude had no idea who it was that messed with him or why it happened. I'm kind of debating about doing it again. Very, very creative revenge. However, it is potentially concerning that you let this sit in your head for so long. Then again, it was a crazy experience, so I guess I can understand that. But I love your execution. Very impressive. Alright, this story's called Bottle Driver Gets Stuck at the Gate. This just happened, and I wanted to type it while it was still fresh in my mind. An important thing to note is that I live in a gated community. Wow. There is somewhere between 3,000 to 5,000 homes here inside the gates. Woo! The way the gates work is that there is an arm that you drive up to and a scanner scans a special barcode on the vehicle to open the arm. Wow! Okay, so I'm on my way home from the store. I notice a big line of cars about 8 car lengths behind me. Out of nowhere, see a car from the back of the line speed past everyone else. There was oncoming traffic, so he was not able to pass me. He started riding my ass. Now, the speed limit on this road is 55 miles per hour, and most people like to drive 70 miles per hour. When he started tailgating me, I thought, I better check my speed. Well, guess what? I was driving 60 miles per hour. My bad. I slowed down to 55. We are now in double yellow line territory, and he can't pass me. The road is winding, and that's just asking to get someone killed. A few miles more, and I see the construction work sign. Speed limit 45. Welp, better slow down again. He is enraged at this point, honking, flashing his lights, tailgating me. I keep going the last 10 miles until I turn into my gate. And crap, he's turning too. I thought, oh man, I just pissed off one of my neighbors. Now, the gate will only let one car in at a time, so each car has to be scanned individually. My car is scanned, the arm opens, and I drive through. The arm goes back down. I look in my rear view mirror, and the arm is not opening again. The guy was probably following me to yell at me when I pulled in, but since his car was not tagged, he couldn't get through the gate. To make matters worse for him, there is no way to turn around. You literally have to back out a few car lengths before you can turn around and get onto the main road. I drove the last mile to my house with a smile on my face. That is a hilarious story, and I am so proud of you. So proud. We must show resistance and defiance to the tailgaters.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.